What is happening, YouTube? It's Mr. Chillout here, and today we're doing it for the honour. In this video I'm going to be explaining what choosing a faction to fight for at the beginning of the game means and how it's going to affect your game later on. Cue the intro. When you first load up For Honor, you were met with a choice that will determine how your game will play out for the foreseeable future in seasons, unless you choose to abandon your faction prematurely, but I'll touch upon that later. The game doesn't really go into too much detail about what it all means, a little bit like Pokemon Go. Remember the days of going outside and seeing that shiny thing in the sky and being with your friends but still on your phone? Ah, the good old days. But remember, you had to choose a team to rally behind. Like Pokemon Go, the team or faction you choose, it doesn't really mean a great deal, as it's more of a popularity contest. The team with the most active and popular community will always prevail, as they have the numbers on their side. I mean, look back to the 300 Spartans. They held their own out against a massive army, but ultimately they were defeated. Now I'm hoping that the three factions are evenly spread out in this game, to make it a bit more interesting, but only time will tell. For Honor seasons are set up in a way that allow players to contribute to an ever-present faction war between the three factions. As you know, you can choose between the Samurais, Vikings and Knights, and each faction is represented on the board by a colour, the Samurai being green, the Viking being yellow and the Knights being red. The seasons map is made up of 60 segments or territories. At the beginning of any given round within a season, each faction has 20 segments each, and your goal from then on is to gain more territories and stop your enemy from advancing onto your territories. So to defend or attack your territories, you need what is called a war asset, which is acquired at the end of any game you have completed, regardless of if your team won or lost. Now, the strength of your war asset is affected by how well you have played in the previous game. So the better you play, the more bang for your buck you get. Each territory that's being contested will show the current standings for all the factions involved. Some will only be a two-way battle, but others will be a three-way battle, depending on where they sit on the map. So you can choose more wisely as to where to put your war asset to better help your faction. You can also only attack tiles immediately adjacent to a tile your faction currently has control of, and you can only defend the front line of your overall territory. These mini battles are updated every 6 hours, so after 6 hours you get a new map that shows where you have won and lost territories, and then the battle starts all over again for another 6 hours. These rolling battles will end at the end of a round which lasts 2 weeks, and at the end of that round every faction is then ranked on how well they did, depending on what their overall standing is, how many segments they control. You then have an overall season which consists of 5 rounds, so an overall of 10 weeks per season.
What does it all mean, Basil?
So you might be asking, what is the point of this metagame, and should you really care? Well, ultimately it'll be for bragging rights, as the territory being gained and lost will not actually change much within the game aspect, apart from maps changing their looks depending on the current commanding faction. As an incentive to play to the best of your ability, winning factions get a nice little unlockable bonus at the end of a round, from armour to weapons or even aesthetic pieces for their character. All in all, it's just a bit of fun to make the game a little bit more competitive when playing online, and also give die-hard players something to play towards and casual players something to just join in with. It's also good to note that the season map is cross-platform, so it considers all the stats from the PC, Xbox One and PS4 communities. So even if your friends play this game on another platform, you can still fight for the honour of your faction, with them or against them. You can also abandon your faction at any given time during a round. However, in doing so you will contribute to your new faction stats, or you will not gain any unlockable bonuses at the end of that round for doing so. There you have it. That is a brief description of how the seasons are structured in For Honor. It's still early days, so we may see some changes to the system, but for now this is how it stands. There is also a little area within each faction's territory which is called events. Now I'll be interested to see how this comes into play on a later date, whether that's where you get your unlockable bonuses from, or whether you can do faction based challenges or something along those lines, which would be quite interesting to see. Anyway, I thank you all so much for watching, and hopefully I've cleared the air a little bit. If you've liked the video, don't forget to give it a massive thumb in, just to show that this content is worth making. And as always, to keep up to date with all my new content, pound that subscribe button, and until the next one, laters.